The 2023 NFL Draft is less than 2 weeks away. At least the first round is less than 2 weeks away. And you know what that means? It's time to discuss three players that I'm higher on than most. And the word playmaker certainly comes to mind. And I'm not just talking about offense. Let's get into it right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to CBT. I'm James Rapien of allbengals.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and buckle up. The countdown tick, tick, tick is on as we are under 2 weeks away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and we have a ton of coverage coming your way. I wanted to give you three guys I'm higher on than the general consensus, and they are names you know. This isn't some under-the-radar type guys or anything like that. We can get to that, and there will be time for that. But heck, I'll be honest with you. I'm still doing homework. I'm still crunching time. And baby Quinn's got me up, all those things. Well, it's all right because we're getting it all knocked out here. And let's start with guy number one, a guy I took at allbengals.com this week over Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer was still on the board, and I took Dalton Kincaid. And I think that would shock a lot of people. I think it would. Because you have the back issue that people were talking about with Dalton Kincaid and age. He's 23, not 21 going on 22 like Michael Mayer. And you have the fact that he's not as good of a blocker as Michael Mayer and all of those things. But Dalton Kincaid, why am I so high on him? Well, the Bengals are a pass-first offense, aren't they? They throw the ball all over the place. They met with Dalton Kincaid, by the way, at the Combine, so there is interest there. To me, just watching him, he is a game changer. And I like game changers. If you've followed this channel, let's time back a few years ago. I was all in on Jahmyr Chase at 5 over Penei Sewell. I said, you know what? Offensive line, of course it's important, but Jahmyr Chase is so hard to find. And he is. I think there's maybe one guy you could argue ahead of Jahmyr Chase as far as wide receivers go, and that's Justin Jefferson. Other than that, by the way, I was in on Jefferson the year prior. He obviously didn't fall to 33. That said, and the Bengals got T. Higgins, which worked out well for them too. That said, Dalton Kincaid could completely, I don't want to say transform this offense that has Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, Jahmyr Chase, but you're talking about an explosive weapon that you can move into the slot, that is capable of winning outside, that is capable of moving around. And look, I think a tight ends coach like James Casey could take Dalton Kincaid and make him a passable blocker. Will he be a great blocker? No. Could he be passable? Yes. The way Kincaid is able to contort his body, get his feet down, make catches that are contested catches over the middle, over the seam, look easy, it's special. He's great after the catch. He's drawn comparisons. Daniel Jeremiah compares him to a more explosive Zach Ertz, which I think is quite interesting. Can you just imagine prime Zach Ertz with Joe Burrow, Jahmyr Chase, and T. Higgins for the next 5 years? That's what you're talking about, right? When you're talking about drafting Dalton Kincaid, at least the next 5 years. So for the rest of potentially prime championship window, I can. And I don't know if he'll be there, but he's going to be really high on my list of players I want the Bengals to draft. Now, could the medicals be there? Are there more concerns about the back than we realize? I was told everything was cleared and good to go, not necessarily by the Bengals, but by NFL teams. Daniel Jeremiah said that as well. We'll see. He has Kincaid as a top 10 player. I think he's as high on him as anybody. Consensus is Kincaid's around a top 20 guy. I would have him. I would run to the podium if he was there at 28. And I think that there is a chance that he is, because it is tight end and it is a devalued position. So if that's the case, Dalton Kincaid, come on down. That said, there are a couple other guys that I'm higher on, I think, than most, one of which Joe Goodberry talked about in depth on Bengals on the Brain earlier this week. And I want you to check that out. Mississippi State cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. I love his game. The more and more I learn, the more I read, it's like, oh, this dude. And a lot of people are going to bring up his size, right? He's just over 6 foot, 6.5 feet tall, if that makes sense. So just, a 6 inches under 6'1", and 166 pounds. And those are the sixes that matter. If it was 186, he would be a top 15 pick. I love him. There's not much to question here outside of his weight. He makes plays. He's aggressive. He's got good instincts. He's a playmaker on the back end. And you know what he reminds me of? And not play style, but just the way people kind of doubt him. He plays a more premium position, so he's going to go earlier and doesn't have the off the field stuff that Tyrann Mathieu had. But he reminds me of the Honey Badger. Coming out in that 2013 draft, you watch Tyrann Mathieu, and it was like, oh, this dude should be a round one type guy. And there was the weed stuff and off the field and LSU stuff. And so he fell to round 3. Bengals drafted Margus Hunt over him, by the way, which I still haven't forgiven them for. And it was like, oh, and it was obviously a steal for Arizona. I don't think you steal Emmanuel Forbes at 28, but he's the exact type of guy on defense that the Bengals really don't have. You have a lockdown CB1 in my mind in Chidobe Awuzie. Can Forbes become that? Sure. I think he's a ball hawk. I think he's got great ball skills, instincts. Some knock him for being over aggressive. I will take that. I like the aggressiveness. And the size part of it, you don't really notice it a ton. Now, is he going to be able to come up and one-on-one tackle? Well, he's did a decent job of that, especially for his size. So I think he'll be able to. I think he'll be able to add on a little weight. Me and Emmanuel Forbes can get in the weight room. But part of it is, and I was talking with Joe Goodberry about this, he's the Devontae Smith of corners. You hear so much about premium positions this year, right? Well, cornerback is one of those, much like wide receiver. Devontae Smith fell to 12, and he shouldn't have fallen that far, to be quite frank with you. He's a really, really good receiver. In that draft, I believe it was 12, but he fell to the Eagles, and he's been a great player. You know, a really good player, big piece of that offense. Is he a true number one? I don't know. He's behind A.J. Brown technically, but a really good player. Emmanuel Forbes, if you get him at 28, and he can be that CB1 of the future and contribute right now for you, well, you like that, and you feel good about it. So I don't really doubt him. I mean, I like his speed. You know, you're talking about 4.3 speed. You're talking about a broad jump that was nearly 11 feet. He's got a good wingspan. I think he's going to be good. You know, he's because the thing is, you talk about his size. He has good wingspan. He's got long arms. He's tall enough, right? He's over 6 foot. It's not like we're talking about a 5'10" corner here that's 160. He's over 6 feet, so he's a little leaner. I like him. And then the third guy, and this is someone that we've talked about some on this channel, and some people, I don't know if it's they don't see the vision, if it's the position devalued or whatever it is. But Jahmyr Gibbs is a baller. And he's one of those guys that is going to get to the pros, is going to make a few plays in week 1, week 2, week 3. And it is going to be a big part of your fantasy team. And people are going to be like, how the hell did he fall to pick 44? Or how the hell did he fall to pick 61? I don't think he'll fall that far, by the way, but how did he fall to pick 42? And that's probably where he goes, like pick 34 to pick 46, something in that range. But Jahmyr Gibbs, great hands, explosion, great route runner, would be a difference maker for the Bills or the Chiefs or the Bengals or any essentially pass first team, the Jets. And I'm just naming fits. And I know some of those teams might have running backs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is what he does fits so many of these pass first teams. And I'm assuming the Jets get Aaron Rodgers, by the way. So many of these pass first teams. And you'd be like, oh my goodness. Like, that's the dynamic that you just added to that room, that you just added to that offense, that you have to take into account, that you have to be concerned about. And for the Bengals, I think it's a perfect fit because you have two guys that can take the top off at any time. Well, those guys are going to get doubled. And of course, you have Boyd in the slot. I get that. But if you have Gibbs, he's going to be working out of the backfield against linebackers and against players that he's going to be able to beat one-on-one, catch, run, beat them with speed. And he's got great instincts, twitch. I like him. I like him a lot. And it would not shock me if a team viewed him and said, you know what? This could be the missing piece. Let's take him. I'm not saying at 28, but maybe at 28. Maybe he's in consideration. The Bengals met with him, by the way. It feels like he would be more of a trade down candidate for them. But there are a lot of teams, I think, that could use a weapon like him because he's as valuable as a passing game or in the passing game as a running back as he is as a runner. And when these positional value stuff, when it comes into account, guess what people say? Oh, well, running backs are more valuable when they can catch the ball. Well, he can catch the heck out of the ball. And it wasn't just, I talked with Joe Goodberry about this on Locked On Bengals. He said he's like a Chris Johnson, Jamal Charles, Alvin Kamara hybrid. Well, two of those three guys, Dane Brugler compared him to as well. Chris Johnson, Alvin Kamara. It's pretty high company. Now, does he turn into that? I'm not sure. But you see the potential. And it's not like they ran him into the ground at Alabama either. And so is he a every down, 3-down back? I don't necessarily think that, but he's a weapon. Much like Kincaid, I think he's a weapon that changes the way defenses have to play you. And if they don't, defenses don't change the way they play you, that's fine. Then that person is going to light them up until they do. That's what attracts me to those guys. So the three guys I'm higher on than most, Dalton Kincaid, love the idea of him at 28. I would have him as my top tight end in this draft. And I know he's older, and I know there are concerns. And Jahmyr Gibbs, no, he's not my top running back in this draft. But from a fit standpoint, Bijan Robinson fits every single team. But Jahmyr Gibbs is a great, excellent, amazing fit, whatever you want to describe it as, for the Bengals. And Emmanuel Forbes, he's a playmaker at corner. Who doesn't like playmakers at corner? He's got great ball skills. The only thing that's knocking him is his weight. We'll get him on that Built Bar plan. We'll get him on some protein, and we'll get things working. So for Andrew Fox-Miller, our channel coordinator, I'm James Rapien. This was fun. Hope you enjoyed it. And NFL Draft is almost here. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell so you get all of our future videos and notifications. And until next time, I'm James Rapien, signing off for now on CBT, Cincinnati Bengals Talk.